Hello everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's Donna. Today I'm making some clusters or snippets that I'm going to be using in an upcoming journal. Or some of them I will be, some of them are just going to be for my stash. These are some that I made previously just to test out the technique that I'm going to be using. Now I've seen these made by so many people, Pam from the Paper Outpost, Gayle Agostinelli. This is kind of my own take on what they've done. I know lots of people probably do the same way or same way of making them. What I'm going to do is I'm going to actually use a ledger page. It's a big sheet of paper that I had, and I'm going to just lay out my clusters on there rather than having them in a long stream like some people make them in a roll or whatever. Mine are actually going to be on this paper, and then I will separate them and sew them onto lace later. I'm going to be using some of the gel press scraps that I had left over from my previous video. I did gather some other things like some scrapbooking paper, literally just scraps that have been hanging around, some doilies, some music sheets, that's even a Dominion store share certificate, and a bunch of other things in there. That is a bridge score pad, and then off to the right you see just some embellishments that I might use. I'm just going to glue them down lightly with my glue stick. They are going to be dry when I sew them, so I'm not too worried about that, and I will vintage some of them up a bit. Okay, so to start I'm going to be using a piece of the music sheet. I thought that would be a nice base to put on top of the ledger paper. I'm going to be using just a ruler to separate or to make the little strips that I'm going to need, just because it's faster for me than tearing. Unfortunately, I don't have one of the tear rulers that like the We Are Memory Keepers tear rulers, but as another ruler will be fine, and you're not going to see too much of the first piece of paper that I put down anyways, so it won't really matter. I have tons of music sheets, and as well that little piece is from a choir book that was totally destroyed, but the pages were still great. So I'm just pulling out a couple of those. Going to grab my ruler and just start separating them. I'm going to speed this up just a little bit because you really don't need to see me do it one by one. But it was much quicker with the ruler. I just want to make sure that I have enough to cover my whole sheet of paper. Now they're all not going to look the same, but they are going to start out pretty much the same. Maybe not the same size, but with the same bases. Just using some of that choir paper, and then just arranging them to make sure that I have enough for the whole page, and cut whatever extras I need. Now I do want them to kind of be vintage, so I am going to go around the edges of them with vintage photo on some of them. And then on some I actually wanted them to be a different color, so I'm going to bring in some, I believe it may have been Highland Heather and Flirty Flamingo for the pink ones, just because I do want some pink for my pink journal that I'll be working on. Now there's the Highland Heather. Just using a sponge dauber to daub some of them on, some of the ink on this one. Now I didn't ink up every single element that I put on there, and I did go back at the end and add some ink once they were finished. But this way I thought the base, at least the base, had the color on it that I needed. Once I've finished with the Highland Heather, I will bring out the Flirty Flamingo and do a few of those as well. Now just using my glue stick, this is an old glue stick, it's actually running out. I'm just going to temporarily glue them down just so they stay in place, because I am going to sew on top of them later anyways. Okay, so once my initial row or my initial layer of pieces are down, I'm just going to start building up each snippet by adding little bits of whatever scraps I have, whatever I think is pleasing. I'm not going to do the same on each one. I'm going to make them different. I'm going to have different colors and different elements on them. basically just using up whatever was sitting on my desk. I didn't really do anything special or make anything special for these. I'm just going to speed it up a bit. I didn't want to really cut it out. So I'm going to show you some of how I did it, and then we will come back and I will show you what they look like finished but still attached to the ledger paper. So these are the ones that I ended up with. I did do another sheet or a smaller sheet because I didn't have a chance to use up all the stamps and the tickets and stuff that I had. So now I'm just going to take the one sheet and I'm going to tear off one of the rows. So you don't need to see me do all of them. I'm going to tear off the one row and then I'm going to separate the clusters from each other. Then I'm just going to, because I don't want them square like that, so I'm just going to rip off some of the extra ledger paper from around the outside edge. This will give me like a raggedy type edge and not so straight and square, and make it each piece really unique from each other. Once that's done, I'm just going to grab some ink, some distress ink, and distress the sides a little bit. This wasn't as fiddly as it seems. It was actually very fun and fairly quick project to do, and got a chance to use up a lot of scraps that I had. Okay, so I did that to all of them. I inked up the edges not just with Vintage Photo, but some of them I did in the Flirty Flamingo and the Highland Heather. And they turned out pretty, but obviously they're not fully decorated yet. Now I'm just taking some washi tape. I had lots of washi tape. I just thought adding a little bit of washi tape to some of them might add a different element, and it gives me a chance to use up some of the washi tape that I have available. Okay, now comes time to sew them onto a piece of lace or some kind of fabric. So I didn't have a lot of this lace left. This is the one I preferred to use, but I didn't have a lot of it left. So I just used what I had. The smaller lace I just felt was just going to be way too small. So I did find some other type of sheer ribbon that I used as well as this lace. And it was fairly simple, and my sewing machine didn't have any problem going through it. Now remember, the glue is completely dry by now. And I just dug out my sewing machine. I did have a little bit of an issue with it when I start. I think my thread, something happened to my thread. Either I broke or my needle broke or something, and I had to stop to fix that. But these were really simple to do. I just placed the little snippet on the lace roll and just sewed right down the center of them. I believe I used the zigzag, or I think I used both a zigzag and a straight stitch for this. This is a Singer sewing machine I got off of Amazon. It's the MX60. I just got it maybe in October, November, but it's worked seems to be working just fine for my purposes. It was super cheap. It was the cheapest one I could find, so I don't expect it to hold up to a lot of sewing, but it seemed to do okay. So these are the rows that I had completed. But now I'm deciding that they are very pretty just like that without separating them. So I was thinking that I might keep a couple of pieces longer so I could put it on the edge of a spine or on the front of a cover or something like that, because they are really, really pretty. So this is what I'm saying right there, or maybe on the spine of a journal. It would look pretty just like that. And I do keep a couple of pieces together for that purpose. If I don't use them, I can always separate them. I'm just measuring how long I would want to keep a couple of pieces, because most of my journals are 6 by 9, so I would want it to be the 6 inches. But of course, this clusters are different sizes, so they might not come out exactly at 6 inches. So I'm just going to cut a couple pieces just so I remember not to cut them all, and then I'll put them off to the side. And then the other ones, I will separate them. And now they're really taking shape with the lace behind it and the little bits of ephemera and music paper and whatever else I put on them. Now it was just the extra piece of ribbon at the end, because that was the sheer ribbon that I used. That ribbon actually came off of a parcel. It was wrapped around a parcel, so it was great to be able to reuse something that would have normally gone in the garbage. Okay, so those are what I have. But now I want to add just a little bit of more. I have some of the Tim Holtz words. I have some die cuts. I have some die cuts that were done previously that I just had left over from making cards, like those daisies are from cards, and some butterflies. Those are all from Stampin' Up. And I'm just gluing them on top with some, I think that was the Beacon 3-in-1 that I used there. I do use some bling on some of them. I have tons of it. Tons of stuff around. Those are some purple flowers and some stickers, and you can see I'm just gathering stuff that I can use to decorate the tops of them a little bit more. That's just bling, I believe, from the dollar store. Okay, so this is what I ended up with at the end of it. Just some stickers on those ones. I kept them flatter because I'm not sure what I'm going to use with those. Absolutely pretty. I just love them. And they didn't take as long as it appears that they did. Some little bling on that one, a little flower, paper flower. Now the daisy from the Stampin' Up! Punch. I think some of those other flowers are from Tsunami Rose. I think it was the digital download that I had. I just had some extras cut out. That was a Tim Holtz finger. I'm not sure about that one. Some feathers. Some of them I left flatter. That one's pretty flat, but I like being able to see the postage stamp on that one. So that is my project for today, how I made my clusters for my upcoming journal, or some of the clusters will go in my upcoming journal. I do hope everybody is staying safe and is healthy, and we will catch you next time. Please subscribe and hit that bell icon to be notified each time I upload a new video. Thanks for watching and stay safe.